what do we really know about some of the earliest man-made structures around today? Most of us know that Stonehenge is a circle of giant, vertically standing stones. But how did they get there? Why? And for what purpose? What if I told you that Stonehenge predates the oldest Egyptian pyramids, and that it didn't start out with any stones? Plus, it isn't even a real henge. My name is Laura Taylor, and with me as always is my lovely co-host.
I'm Andrew. Hi.
Andrew Hook. Welcome to Digging Deeper with the Ancients. So, we are going from the newest topic that we'll probably ever cover with Easter Island in the last episode to one of the oldest. It predates the pyramids.
This is older than rocks that were made thousands of years ago in Egypt.
It's not older than the rocks themselves.
Oh.
But it's older than the construction.
Okay.
Stonehenge was put up before the pyramids were
Wow.
erected. Yes. The oldest pyramid dates to about 2600 BC. And then we'll hear more about Stonehenge in this podcast.
All right.
So this week we'll be discussing Stonehenge, one of the oldest man-made structures around today. One of Britain's greatest mysteries and most famous landmarks. Today, we'll explain what it is and what we know about it, as well as go into some of the myths and theories about it and where it's been featured in pop culture, of course.
It's been one or two things.
Yeah, just a couple. First, let's touch on the name Stonehenge and my intro where I said it's technically not a henge.
Okay, well, can I ask a question? What is a henge?
Technically, a henge would have a circular ditch inside the circle of stones, not on the outside of them like Stonehenge does. Although, a henge, the term henge was technically termed in 1932, so it came about long after Stonehenge was already named. But henge also translates into hanging, which is, most people think it refers to the horizontal stones on top that are on top of the vertical
on top
stones.
of the dominoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And those would be the hanging stones. So Stonehenge.
Okay.
But others also theorize that people were actually hung from the horizontal stones. And that's where hanging stones come from. Anyways.
Okay.
We really don't know, but there's theories out there. Stonehenge is a prehistoric megalithic monument in southern England, just 85 miles southwest of London.
On the Salisbury Plains.
Yes. I didn't say that because
That's
I don't
okay.
know how many people would.
I understand it because of Eddie Izzard.
It is unique to any other monolithic structure in the world in that most of the stones aren't local.
I also learned that from Eddie Izzard.
It consists of roughly 85 massive stones totaling over 1,500 tons of rock. I say roughly 85 because the numbers vary from source to source. Even looking at pictures, it's hard to tell how many actual stones are there. But there are three main types. An outer ring of vertical sarsen stones are standing on end. They're up to 30 feet tall, which is 9 meters, and weigh 25 tons. And these are topped by the connecting horizontal lintel stones, or hanging stones. The sarsen stones are even bigger than they look, because around a quarter of their bulk is buried underground for support. So they're 9 meters tall on top of the ground.
But do we actually know how deep they go underground?
We haven't excavated that close to them, but we have found evidence of where other stones used to be, and that's how far they.
Okay.
So it was about a quarter of that 9 meters is approximately how far underground they go. Inside the sarsens is a ring of smaller blue stones, referred to because they look blue when they're wet or broken. Each is around 13 feet or 4 meters tall. For those of you who listened to our last episode about Easter Island, these blue stones are around the same size as the average Moa statue.
So, still pretty big.
Oh yeah, still huge. Then inside the bluestone ring are freestanding trilithons, which are two bulkier vertical sarcens joined by one lintel. So it's just circle upon circle of stones. The stones are set in the middle of the most dense complex of stone and Bronze Age monuments in England, including several hundred burial mounds, as well as a surrounding circular earth bank and ditch. As for the specifics of who made it and when it was built, well, it gets very complicated, as yet again we have no written records of its construction. Much of the early archaeology was sloppy, to put it nicely. And large portions of the area haven't been excavated at all. Pretty typical for our podcast.
Except there's not many wells.
True. That was only the first couple episodes.
Yeah, well, it's enough. It started a trend.
So we may cover a period in history that had writing, but it was rare, and so we mostly rely on archaeology. Mm-hmm. Well, let's have a look at what we do know and the various theories about Stonehenge, which, like Easter Island, can get a little weird, and people have been visiting and studying Stonehenge for a lot longer than Easter Island.
That's because it's been around a lot longer than Easter Island.
Exactly. So they've had a lot longer to theorize, and yes, aliens creating it is a theory.
Of course it is.
Aliens creating Stonehenge, the Easter Island Moa, and Egyptian pyramids are some of the biggest alien theories out there. But I'm choosing not to cover the alien theory again. However, I will point out that there's also a theory that says magic.
Merlin.
Yes. And there was actually a lot of belief in the theory that Merlin created Stonehenge. According to the 12th century writer, whose tale of King Arthur and mythical account of English history were considered factual well into the Middle Ages, Stonehenge is the handiwork of the wizard Merlin. In the mid-5th century, the story goes, hundreds of British nobles were slaughtered by the Saxons and buried on Salisbury Plain. Merlin used his sorcery to move these magical stones across the sea and arrange them above the mass grave to honor the fallen. Legend has it that King Arthur's father is buried there as well.
Well, I see where the problem is with that one. Those rocks have not come up from across the sea.
That is a problem, yes. They didn't know that, though. It took a lot of study to figure out where the rocks came from. And they're pretty positive now, and they have been for a while. But I'll go into that later. But okay. Another, even if we do ignore the magic involved, modern science has Stonehenge's construction predating Merlin. Yep. Or at least the real-life figures who are said to have inspired him.
But Merlin has also been theorized to be a time traveler.
Oh. Well, then at least this event.
Okay.
It predates by several thousand years. So, who built it?
The Druids.
We'll get into that. We still don't know who built it, although guesses can be made based on when and where it was constructed. But more importantly, we can rule a lot of people out. Groups that have occupied the area include the ancient Britons, which were a multitude of small-scale societies, with each lasting no more than a few generations before splitting, merging, or becoming obliterated. These groups were in contact and conflict with their neighbors and sometimes more distant groups, as evidenced by the appearance of exotic objects, family links, and wars. Then, around 700 BC, we get our first eyewitness accounts of Britain. These early reports reveal a mosaic of named people, including Trinovanti, Silures, Cornovi, Selgove, but there is little sign that these groups had any sense of collective identity. These people are commonly referred to as Celts, but this title is inaccurate because it refers to the language spoken, which is based on ancient Gauls, from what is now Germany. Those were the true Celts. Mm-hmm. Basically, if we call the people who occupy Britain Celts because they spoke English, then all English speakers are a form of Celt, because English is a Germanic language. Or you could say that all descendants from the British Isles are German. So for the purpose of this podcast, I'll call the ancient Celtic people in Britain the Celtic Britons.
Okay.
Okay?
So you're saying I'm German?
Yes, if we go by language.
Well, that and I'm more British than most British people.
Yes, that's true. You are. We did a DNA test.
Yeah.
The Celtic Britons had a special class called Druids. These are the ones you had brought up.
Long white beards, long white robes. Early transvestites couldn't get their shaving together.
What? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Eddie Izzard.
Anyways, these people had a special class called Druids who were members of the high-ranking class, leaders of religious ceremonies, legal authorities, medical professionals, politicians, and basically leaders of everything. We don't know if they were only men, though.
That doesn't mean women can't have beards.
It's a little bit more difficult, but for most of us, but okay. It was believed well into the 20th century that the Druids built Stonehenge. Now, next came the Roman conquest, which started in 43 AD. The Greco-Roman civilization displaced the Celtic Briton culture across Iron Age Europe. By 300 AD, most of what is now Britain, Wales, and Ireland had become Romans culturally and legally, even though Roman citizenship was more a political status than an ethnic identity. Although it's also important to note, as I have Scottish heritage, Scotland was never conquered by Rome. So, based on when Stonehenge was constructed, which we'll discuss next, it was most likely the work of the ancient Britons, who occupied the area prior to the Celtic Britons. We know they were primitive, late Stone Age, early Bronze Age people who were hand-to-mouth subsistence farmers and traded or fought with other tribes. They were also technologically undeveloped and just starting to understand how to work with metal. Overall, we don't know much about them, which complicates everything that much more. But based on the time when Stonehenge was built, these were the people who built it. The Celtic Britons weren't around yet. Now I'll go into how we know when. I found multiple sources supposedly based on archaeological evidence, but remember, the archaeology was a mess early on, that date the first phase of construction, which was the earth mound and ditch that surround the stones, anywhere between 2000 and 5000 BC, which is a huge time span.
It's only 3,000 years.
Exactly. So we are going to use evidence of human bones found in the earth mound to be the earliest date, because the earth mound was done before the stones, and so we're using that, which is 3100 BC. Stonehenge was used as a burial site for nobles from all over, not just locals, and this can be determined by analyzing the remains of the people buried around there for at least the first 500 years. It's also interesting that the remains are split fairly evenly between men and women, which indicates an equality between the genders that is often lacking in modern times even.
What?
Although that could have only applied to nobility. The next stage of construction is also controversial. Big surprise! Because the bluestones were moved around a lot after their initial placement, which occurred around the same time as the ditch, or possibly as late as 2500 BC. It has been estimated that as many as 80 bluestones were brought in, although only 43 remain today. Stones being destroyed or moved has always been a problem at Stonehenge, even in recent history. There are numerous holes that may have once held stones, and it was common for visitors to take pieces of the stones as souvenirs, or to attempt their own research. And at one point, visitors were even given a tool to chip off a piece of stone to take home as a souvenir. A conservative guess would suggest something in the region of 169 stones were on the site at one time, and now there's 85, roughly 85. Of course, we also don't know what other things could have caused it. There are big stones that are broken apart, but people are mostly to blame for what we do know has happened. There have been many theories on how the stones were brought over, where they came from, and why they were brought to the present location, and although there aren't many solid answers, the question of where they came from can be answered fairly concretely, as an analysis of the bluestones matches those from Wales, 150 miles away, or 250 kilometers away. And an archaeology dig in Wales in 2018 revealed a site where a stone circle matching the dimensions of the bluestones of Stonehenge was erected around 3000 BC, but then taken down and moved 500 years later, which is about the time that the bluestones were brought in to Stonehenge. The older circle was even oriented toward summer solstice, just like Stonehenge. So it is a very good theory that the blue stones were moved to Stonehenge from this previous site. But that also raises more questions, like why? Well,
why not?
Well, aside from that, there is the theory that the people just brought the stones with them when they moved, because evidence of human activity at that site ended around the same time the stones were moved.
They were early collectibles.
It's true. We bring our collectibles when we move. The last stage in construction was approximately 500 years later, around 2000 BC, when the Sarsen stones were brought in. The Sarsen sandstone slabs were arranged into an outer ring, and some were assembled into the iconic three-piece structures called trilithons that stand tall in the center of Stonehenge. The Sarsen stones are a local stone and were likely sourced from a quarry just 25 miles north of the site, or may have even been scattered in the immediate vicinity.
Trilithons is what they're called.
Trilithon is when the two uprights have a horizontal beam on top. That's okay. A trilithon.
Okay, because it actually sounds like a really slow triceratops.
The Sarsen stone themselves are just the single upright stone.
Okay.
Roughly 50 Sarsen stones and 43 blue stones are now visible on the site. Radiocarbon dating suggests that work continued at Stonehenge until roughly 1600 BC, including carvings of axes on 4 of the Sarsens around 1700 BC. The blue stones in particular were repositioned multiple times, leading to theories that they were brought in after the Sarsen stones. It has also been suggested that Stonehenge was never actually completed at any stage, which...
Yeah, well, if they were working on it for 3,000 years as it was...
Yeah, and the thing is, there isn't a complete circle now.
It was like an early Winchester house.
You may have to explain that reference.
The Winchester house is a house in California that was built by the daughter of the inventor of the Winchester rifle, and she just kept building a house and just kept building and building and building, and even after she died, the house wasn't completed. Like, there were stairways going to nowhere. Yeah, anyways, look it up.
Yeah, there's a lot of theories on why that's like that, but yeah. How were the massive stones moved? Now we're going to get into some of the theories, because we really don't know. Here's a theory. Wicker. Basket-like wicker cages. Now, this would be groups of 4 or 5 men used wicker cage contraptions to roll the stones over large distances, perhaps with the help of oxen. When they reached rivers, the giant baskets became flotation devices that the movers could guide downstream. Now, this theory is supported by archaeological evidence that people were already weaving baskets and other structures back when Stonehenge was created. So far, though, the person behind this theory has only managed to test it on a 1-ton slab, a fraction of even the bluestone size. So further experiments with supersized baskets and 5-ton rocks may show how much water the basket hypothesis really holds. So,
kind of literally.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the theory is based on the fact that people were weaving at the time. Mm-hmm. So I find this a very weak theory.
But it's an interesting theory.
It is. It's different. I had never heard of it, so I thought that was kind of neat. Here's another one. Ball bearings. After studying puzzling stone balls found near ancient stone circles in Scotland that resemble Stonehenge, now, it didn't say that they found these at Stonehenge, but there's been so much activity there that they could have at one point and we wouldn't know. Anyway, some scholars concluded that Neolithic workers may have used wooden or stone balls and long grooved planks to slide the heavy slabs, with a team of oxen. The researchers estimate Stonehenge's creators could have transported the massive rocks some 10 miles a day, taking roughly 2 weeks to make the trek from the quarry in Wales to the construction site in England. Sounds feasible. The researchers tested their theory by enlisting student volunteers and constructing a model out of wooden balls, planks, and concrete slabs. While they have yet to reproduce the experiment with more authentic materials and oxen, initial attempts suggest that their hypothesis is entirely feasible, and that Leonardo Da Vinci may not have been the inventor of ball bearings after all.
Yeah, but he patented them, so...
Stone Age technology. In 2003, a retired construction worker built a Stonehenge replica in his yard and demonstrated a low-tech way to move large objects by placing walnut-sized rocks underneath them and spinning them. According to his estimates, one man could transport a 1-ton concrete block 300 feet per hour with this technique.
Actually, I've seen a video of that.
That doesn't surprise me, because it's been done multiple places. And that makes it so that a team of movers could convey much larger objects at faster rates. This man, by himself, single-handedly moved an entire barn and many other hefty structures using just this method. He also explored how Stonehenge's builders may have raised the lintels, the horizontal, or even just raised the stones themselves if they were flat on the ground, by using weights and leverage to slowly rock heavy pillars into standing positions. Sledges, rollers, and boats. Now this is the one long-standing theory that most people have heard about. Stonehenge's builders fashioned sledges and rollers out of tree trunks coated with animal fat as grease to haul the blue stones. In this scenario, they transferred the boulders onto rafts once they reached the sea and floated them first along the Welsh coast and then up a nearby river. Such an experiment with a sleigh carrying a 40-ton slab of stone was successfully conducted near Stonehenge in 1995. A team of more than 100 workers managed to pull the slab on an 18-mile journey.
That's nearly the same 200 miles as it is to all the way to Stonehenge.
Yes, but the sarsen stones are the ones that are the heaviest, that match this the closest, and they were only 25 miles away.
Okay.
So this would match the bigger of the stones. And of course, there is the theory of glaciers, which I don't put a lot of faith in, but I will explain it anyways.
I'm going to take a guess here. Glaciers. It's a naturally built thing by nature.
No, just the stones were moved there naturally.
Alright.
That's how they moved. Yeah. Oh, I'll just give you the details.
Okay.
So, as early as the 1970s, geologists have been adding their voices to the debate over how Stonehenge came into being, challenging the classic images of industrious Neolithic builders pushing, carting, rolling, or hauling the craggy bluestones from faraway Wales. Some scientists have suggested that glaciers, not humans, did most of the heavy lifting. The globe is dotted with giant rocks known as glacier erratics that were carried over long distances by moving ice flows. Most archaeologists have remained cool toward the glacier theory. Cool towards the glacier theory. Wondering how the forces of nature could possibly have delivered the exact number of stones needed to complete the circle. It is also unclear whether ice sheets ever made it far enough south to cover land in Stonehenge's vicinity. So those are the theories of how the stones were moved. And there are a couple of feasible ones in there, but we don't really know. There's not really any evidence for it.
What about aliens?
There's
that's
that.
right. You're not going into aliens, right?
There's aliens and Merlins, too. I did mention that. So why? What were the uses for this circle of rocks? The earliest surviving written references to Stonehenge date from the medieval period, and from the 14th century onwards, there are increasing references to Stonehenge, and drawings and paintings of it. Just like how the stones were moved, the use of the site has been theorized based on little to no evidence. Now I'll go into those theories. What it was used for. There is the idea that it was a prehistoric observatory. It lines up with seasonal solstice events. There's the evidence for it. The site, specifically the Great Trilithon, the encompassing arrangement of the 5 central trilithons, the heel stone, and the embanked avenue are aligned to the sunset of the winter solstice and the opposing sunrise of the summer solstice. A natural landform at the monument's location followed this line and may have inspired its construction. The excavated remains of culled animal bones suggest that people may have gathered at the site for winter rather than summer. It's also been mused that the estimated total of 30 sarsen stones multiply by 12 astrological signs equal 360 days of the year, while the inner circle represents the lunar month.
Sure.
Exactly. Another theory is that it was a druid ceremonial site, and even if the druids didn't build it, they still could have used it. A lot believe that the druid had human sacrifices here, and that's what a lot of the bones are. This is also still a meeting place for, well, up until recently, that people can't actually go inside the stones anymore, but...
Thank goodness.
Yeah, they can't destroy it anymore. But that's fairly recently. And even now, when they can't go inside the stones, they still meet near them to celebrate summer solstice, when the sun rises directly into the circle. The monument's central axis aligns closely with the midsummer sunrise. So the druid theory kind of goes along with the ancient astrological. And then there's the theory that it was an alien landing pad.
Of course it was.
Anyways, back on to the series.
Because as we know, aliens need to land on rocks to land safely.
How about this? Was it a royal burial ground? In the ditch surrounding the main monument, there are multiple cremated human remains. About 64 cremations have been found, and perhaps as many as 150 individuals were originally buried at Stonehenge, making it the largest late Neolithic cemetery in the British Isles. In addition to these cremated remains, there are skeletal remains of many nobles.
Both men and women.
Yes.
Which does lead credence to nobility.
Yep.
So, sure, why not?
It's a possibility. This is the one that I like to think of the best, because it involves a few of the others. It was a sacred place of healing and worshipping ancestors. Over the centuries, legends have endowed the Bluestones with mystical properties. The British poet Laomon, inspired by folkloric accounts of 12th century cleric Geoffrey of Monmouth, wrote in AD 1215, "The stones are great, and magic power they have. Men that are sick fare to that stone, and they wash that stone, and with that water bathe away their sickness." So this idea that they were for healing rituals. So this accounts for the high number of burials in the area and for the evidence of trauma deformity in some of the graves. However, proponents of this theory do concede that the site was probably multifunctional and used for ancestor worship as well. Isotope analysis indicates that some of the buried individuals were from other regions. A teenage boy buried approximately 1550 BC was raised near the Mediterranean Sea. Now in 1550, that would have been a hard trek to get to Stonehenge.
Mm-hmm.
A metal worker from 2300 BC grew up near the Alpine foothills of Germany, and what is called the Boxcomb Bowman arrived from Wales or France. That's just a name they gave one of the skeletons.
Mm-hmm. And Wales technically isn't that far away from there. It's far enough away.
150 miles. But not as far as
in
the
comparison
others.
To the Mediterranean or Germany.
Yeah. Another part to this, the healing theory, is that bluestones possess unusual acoustic properties. When struck, they respond with a loud clanging noise. And this could explain why certain bluestones were hauled such a long distance. And in certain ancient cultures, rocks that ring out were believed to contain mystic or healing powers. They were even used as bells in churches up until the 12th century. Now into the Roman times. Basically, the Romans, it was some sort of place of importance, but we really don't know what it was to them. There's a lot of evidence that they hung out there. A lot of objects have been found, but we don't know what it was for. There's nothing specific. And the Saxons that came after may have used it for public executions, as there was a decapitated man buried there at that time. Although with only a single one found, I doubt the public execution theory. It may have just been handy at the time.
Or maybe he fell and just hurt himself really bad and lost his head.
You're cute sometimes.
I'm cute all the time.
So those are the theories of what it was used for. It has been a legally protected scheduled ancient monument since 1882.
Is it one of those new
UNESCO World Heritage Site? It is.
Okay.
It is now owned by the Crown and managed by English Heritage. The surrounding land has also been bought out by National Trust.
It's probably why you don't find it in as many commercials as you do with the Easter Island heads.
Yes, could be. Now on to my Simpsons reference. Now, I am finding these Simpsons references very difficult. A lot more difficult than the ones I had in university. So, in the third level of the Simpsons game, Homer has to destroy Stonehenge at one point in order to progress through the level. That is the main reference. Now, the Simpsons do visit England, and London specifically, and many sites around the city of London, but they don't visit Stonehenge because Homer rear-ends the Queen in her carriage and is sent to the Tower of London to await execution. However, they make a deal, and the family is allowed to leave Britain immediately as long as they take Madonna with them. Now, I did also find some random facts about Stonehenge that I just had to add in.
Okay.
Now, it is currently owned by the Crown.
Right.
But it was sold at auction for £6,600 in 1915. The man who bought it was a gift for his wife. But apparently she didn't like it because 3 years later he donated it to the government. In the 1880s, after carrying out some of the first scientifically recorded excavations at the site, Charles Darwin, yes, father of natural selection, survival of the fittest, scientist our cat is named after, yep, that Charles Darwin, discovered that Stonehenge was quote-unquote sinking because earthworms were taking dirt from below the ground and depositing it on top, around the stones, at a rate of 1.2 inches per year.
That's actually pretty fast.
Yeah, it is. Another interesting fact is that the lintels, the horizontal stones on top, are nearly perfectly level, even though they're on slanted ground, and they wouldn't have had
levels.
Yeah, they wouldn't have had levels at that time.
Well,
there are ways of measuring, yes, but that makes you think maybe they were putting something on top to make sure it was exactly level.
Pebble.
Yeah, which is impressive. In 1620, the Duke of Buckingham dug a large hole in the ground at the center of Stonehenge, looking for buried treasure. No idea why.
Oh, but it's like an X, a big X. X marks the spot.
No, it's a circle.
Yeah, but if you make a line from that stone to this stone, and then over there, it's an X.
He is also the person who financed the first official archaeological dig, which, due to the time, we know nothing about, and whatever artifacts were found there have been lost. It was so badly done, but we are talking about 1600s. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's all you got. That's all I got.
Well, let me tell you what I got. Starting with movies. There's about 30 titles that I found that have Stonehenge in it. I'm going to go through some of the ones that more people are going to know. Like, for instance, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Thor, The Dark World. Transformers, The Last Night. King Arthur in 2004. I know, shocking. Ice Age in 2002. Scrat is back. This is Spinal Tap. They don't actually go to Stonehenge, but they have a little tiny Stonehenge that comes on their stage.
That's funny.
National Lampoon's European Vacation.
Okay.
He actually knocks over Stonehenge by backing into it. Shanghai Knights, Owen Wilson and Jackie Chan movie.
Yeah, I love it.
Muppets from Space, because aliens.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a Beatles movie called Help that also has Stonehenge in it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now, as for TV shows, there's about 35 titles that have Stonehenge in it, including, in 1986, The Twilight Zone, A Day in Beaumont, The Last Defender of Camelot.
More Camelot, Merlin stuff.
Mm-hmm. In 2004, Star Trek Enterprise.
Oh.
There's a flash of Stonehenge
okay.
So they don't actually go there, but there's a flash of Stonehenge. In Stormfront Part 2. 2019, Pennyworth.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. Al McCogan This is the name of the episode.
Oh, okay. I don't know the episode names, but yeah, I would have saw that.
2012, Phineas and Ferb, Excaliferb. 2019, DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Nip Stuck. 1987, Ducktails, The Curse of Castle McDuck. 2010, Doctor Who, The Pandorica Opens.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that.
1983, Inspector Gadget, Unhinged.
Unhinged.
1985, 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo, When You Witch Upon a Star.
I don't think I remember that. I was only 2 at that point.
I don't remember it either. I was 12 and I didn't watch Scooby Doo. TV movies. There's about 10 titles. Here are some highlights. Sharknado 5. Global Swarming. Stonehenge Apocalypse.
Oh.
And of course, there's also several documentaries.
Yes.
TV miniseries. 1988, Merlin. And in 1979, Quartermass. And that's for film and TV. In comics, Marvel Comics, there's about 45 issues that go to Stonehenge. Everything from Strange Tales, The Avengers, Thor, Marvel Premieres number 18 and 19, Doctor Strange, Vision and Scarlet Witch, Namor and the Submariner. Of course, he's going to go to Stonehenge because, well, water.
Yeah, that doesn't.
Wolverine and the Fantastic Four. So pretty much everyone in Marvel has at least been to Stonehenge or have talked about Stonehenge.
Lucky brats.
In DC Comics, there's not quite as many. There's only about 30 issues that everyone from Batman, Flash, the Justice League of America, Suicide Squad, Superman, the Teen Titans, the Spectre, they've all been to Stonehenge or have talked about Stonehenge.
We're more like the Simpsons. We've been to London, but not actually Stonehenge.
For games, there's about 18 different games that have Stonehenge in them, including Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Really?
For all the PC, Xbox One, PS4 Series S and X, and PS5. Trials Evolution. It's a biking game where that's for the Xbox 360. Sonic and the Black Knight for the Wii. Guitar Hero 2 for the PS2 and Xbox 360. Atlantis: The Lost Tales for PS1, Sega Saturn, and PC. E.T. No More Mr. Nice Alien for the PC in 1997. Stunned Island for the PC. Top Gear for the Super NES. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles World Tour for the Commodore 64. But they go to Stonehenge, and that's one thing you get to color. And for music, Spinal Tap, they have a song called Stonehenge.
Oh, okay.
Soundgarden, Exit Stonehenge. Exit Stonehenge. Fish, they have a song called Wilson, which talks about Stonehenge. Crosby, Stills and Nash, a song called Cathedral.
It's about Stonehenge?
It has at least they mentioned Stonehenge.
Okay.
The Beastie Boys, Do It. They talk about Stonehenge.
Okay.
Common, the rapper, the song called The Corner. Apparently there's Stonehenge mentioned in that. Mother, Baby Don't Dance. They mentioned Stonehenge. Garfunkel and Oates. The song is titled Hand Job, Bland Job, I Don't Understand Job. RZA, another rapper, Snakes. Black Sabbath, Stonehenge. It's just an instrumental song, though, so there's no lyrics.
Oh, okay.
And album covers, there's been a couple album covers. Steely Dan, but it's not actual Stonehenge, it's Stonehenge built out of cars.
Oh, okay. There's, Carhenge in the States.
Yeah, I believe that's that.
I don't know where in the States it is, but I know there is a Carhenge in the States.
And Pink Floyd, again, they're back, but it's not an actual album. It's a cover album, or not cover, but it's a bootleg album, and that has Stonehenge on it. And as for books, if you could name an author, odds are they have mentioned Stonehenge at one point or another. Well,
especially when looking for the Simpsons reference, I did discover that Homer says Stonehenge once, but he's not referring to Stonehenge the monument. He's referring to the fact that Stonehenge can be a term used to call a British man. Because there's an episode where he does a wife swap, and the guy's British, and he says, Stonehenge, don't touch her, or something along those lines. And it means he's talking to the British guy.
Of course he is.
So I did not know that. So that made it even harder, of course, to find Stonehenge references in The Simpsons. But, yeah.
And I'm sure there has been lots of advertisements with Stonehenge in it. I just, unlike last week with Easter Island, I wasn't able to find a big reference sheet that showed me everything. So without going into a YouTube extremely deep dive trying to find advertisements, there's more than likely a bunch of advertisements, but just nothing that I was able to find in the short amount of time that I had to research this. But anyway, that's all I got.
Yeah, and I just want to mention, be careful if you decide to do any of this research on your own, because there's a lot of garbage out there. And even us looking through them and finding proper theories is difficult, because there's so much debate and so many theories and so much controversy, even in actual facts, which you really shouldn't think there would be theories in facts. But unfortunately, when you're dealing with things this old, that's just what happens. Yeah. Nobody can agree.
And people often say, well, I'll just go to Wikipedia. Wikipedia, anyone can edit that. So if you think you know something, you can go to the Wikipedia page and enter it and come off as fact. But they'll often, without actual references, make sure you check the references of what you read on Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's one thing is, I often start with Wikipedia and then spread out from there, because Wikipedia was one of the places that said a different number of stones are present there than other places. So if you go to Wikipedia and see that their numbers are different than what I said, it's because I found better, more accurate numbers multiple other places. And Wikipedia may just have one reference for it. And that's all they need. All you need is one reference to alter Wikipedia pages. But I prefer to go to sources and find multiple references. And those would be the ones I go with. Anyways, just a little background on what we do and how we come up with the things.
And I also mentioned Eddie Izzard a lot of times in this.
Yeah.
And if you get a chance, go watch one of her shows. She is amazing. One of the funniest people I have ever seen, ever. And
she's a British comedian who's been active for a long time. Yep. She's also done a lot of acting as both a man and a woman, I believe.
Yep. Well, I don't know about the woman, but yes, definitely as a man.
Yeah, they were
really good at losing limbs in TV shows.
Yeah, she's been in a lot of TV shows, including just recently The Lost Symbol, that new Dan Brown one.
Yep.
Anyways, but primarily a comedian and now turned a politician. And no, we're not being sponsored. We're just big fans.
Yeah. In fact, later this month, we're going to go watch one of her shows live.
Yep. So, yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions, if you'd like to learn more about any of these topics, you can, or if you have other suggestions for topics for us, you can email us at diggingdeeperwiththeancients@gmail.com. Now that's all one word, Digging Deeper with the Ancients. We also have an Instagram that I put up some just general reference pictures for various topics, and that is also Digging Deeper with the Ancients on Instagram. It's all one word.
Yeah. And that's about it we have for today. So if you've listened this far, and that means you probably like what you've heard so far, please feel free to subscribe and just get back to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Bye.